What is going on? Welcome back to the channel. Today when I talk to you about SoFi, I want to go over some of the current data points, break it down on what really moved it and where it might be heading next. Before we get into any of that, make sure to hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So SoFi did close in the green 0.68%, so nice strong close heading into power hour. 23.09 the low, 24.50 the high. So it did have a nice push higher first thing. Regrettably, you did have some institutions selling for whatever reason, which prompted the push lower. And it wasn't just SoFi, a lot of stocks actually had this same type of price action. Nonetheless though, 68.3 million shares being traded, 73.7 is the average. Today there wasn't any substantial data points to kind of take note of. A couple Fed speakers, and surprisingly, even though a lot of their topics were very dooming gloomish, kind of talking about tariffs, how that would prompt inflation still, even though we kind of had good data yesterday, and how that inflation might make a stagflation type of scenario. So a lot of doom and gloomish, but surprisingly enough, that didn't really affect the market all that much. One thing that did really help kind of fuel some optimism was Sept early this morning, mentioning that for the September Fed meeting, you might actually be seeing a 50 basis point cut. And this is exactly what the market loved to hear. I think in reality, as I've mentioned in last couple of videos, the market truly does want a 75 basis point cut between the first two meetings, so September and October. But nonetheless, despite him kind of just talking, the market actually did believe it. So right now there is a 93.6% likelihood of a 25 basis point cut. So statistically, it's probably going to be that. But right now there is a 6.4% likelihood of a 50 basis point cut. So the market actually does believe that. And there's also a lot of good data coming out over the next couple of trading days that could really validate this even further. So that would be huge for the broader market, huge for SoFi. Loans would go through the roof. Market would just go through massive expansions. So that would be most likely the next big catalyst. And that's pretty much 1 month away. So September the 17th. And one thing that really gave the market a very nice push higher was this right here. So ultimately, looks like Kansas City Fed President Jeffrey Schmidt ultimately saying that inflation's pretty much where they want. And that's been one thing that Powell has stated was going to be one driving factor to really prompt a cut. So yeah, when it comes back down to this, whether it be a 25 or 50, it looks like for the September meeting, we will be getting a cut, which is kind of funny because what was it, two and a half weeks ago, we had Powell saying that he's not even considering a cut for September. So kind of funny how the market completely flips on its head within like 2 weeks. But nonetheless, specific to SoFi, there was no news, no SEC filing, so it was just merely piggybacking off the broader market. For shorts, they did increase a small amount today, 193,000 shares, so still kind of a drop in the bucket. Ultimately, 9.29% of the free float is being shorted, works out to be 109.42 million shares overall are being shorted. Cost to borrow minimum back at being negative, so negative 0.09, so you have a couple of brokers doing some sketchy stuff. But looking at the options, this is where I wanted to kind of talk on, and what it alludes to is coming next. So we had 56 million in calls, 6.09 million in puts, and then 46% of all the options being done were bullish in nature. And that's been one thing that's been very consistent with SoFi, is that the options are bullish. Whereas a lot of other stocks, even though they might be green on some days, technically the options are bearish. So ultimately, SoFi, like, you actually do see legitimate optimism. But one thing I wanted to share with you right down here, so this does mark, was it the 5th consecutive green day for SoFi, but looking at the net premiums, we have not seen this type of activity since ultimately, I think it was when December, when it went through that massive push higher. So this ultimately does mean that a huge amount of optimism is rushing into SoFi, and so there is a huge consensus that SoFi is going to move higher. Again, as I brought up like a week ago, the 𝗖𝗡𝗡𝗘𝗖𝗧 technicals is projecting for it to be pretty much at the mid to high 25s. So I think the writing's on the wall that things are going to go higher from here. From a bulls standpoint, you see consensus for it to be roughly around that 25 to 25.50, so matching with that 𝗖𝗡𝗡𝗡𝗖𝗡 technicals. Bears are anticipating for it to be sub 23, and in reality, I don't really see any kind of data point coming out this week. So tomorrow we have PPI, we also have Michigan consumer sentiment, and also retail sales on Friday. Even if those come in negative, I don't really see SoFi dipping and staying consistently below $23. There's just so much actual optimism in the broader market and FOMO, and now you have the market really fixated on rate cuts, and so that is going to be the next big catalyst. And honestly, unless some World War III type of event does occur, I don't really see much downside. I know a lot of people are saying, hey, SoFi and just the broader market does need to consolidate a little bit, which I do agree. I think it is going to be coming sometime whenever, but ultimately it's not going to be this week, in my opinion, again, unless we have some World War III type of scenario. But nonetheless, these are all the transactions that did occur on the secondary market above $100,000. So a couple of big ones: 1.4, 3.9, 15 million, 1 million, 1 million, blah blah blah. A lot of big transactions, as I've kind of mentioned in the past. Now it's rather normal just to see massive amounts of volume, even 53 million. So clearly that was one of the big names in the market. Even throughout the day, 2.2 million. Dark pool, very active, even on during the after hours, which is pushing higher. So 1.8 million right there, 9.3, 1.7, 1.6. So definitely good to see. With it closing at 23.81, it is trading between this R1 and the pivot. So one thing I've really mentioned time and time again is that 24.64, that's going to be that kind of breakout. And if it's able to get above that, then realistically, you can anticipate most likely around that $28 to $29 range from the technical standpoint. So something to keep in mind. And on the actual chart, on a side note, there's no real articles really coming out associated to SoFi to worthwhile to bring up, and even no new analyst ratings. Actually, while I'm on here, I'm speaking a little bit faster than it loads, but no new analyst rating, so just so you're all aware. But with a lot of the 13Fs already been submitted, you can kind of see just quarter over quarter, institutions did increase their position by 4.75%. So that's really good. I know a lot of people really like to invest in stocks that have a kind of relatively high institutional presence because it adds stability, kind of FOMO in some cases. Still a lot of retail. So other, aka retail, is sitting at 614.81 million. All this information is as of Q2 on a side note. And then strategic entities, 35.82 million. So let me know your general thoughts on that. But aside from all that fun stuff on the actual chart, there's not really much negatives to kind of bring up. So it is above the ALMA, above all the key pivotal moving averages. Because of the recent price action, you see stochastic RSI rather neutral now, so it's not really overbought, not oversold, so it's kind of smack dab in the middle. So it could still react to some potentially negative data, whether it be specific to SoFi or let's say the broader market. But still, nonetheless, I think the technicals and many other signals all are pointing to higher highs coming. So let me know your thoughts on SoFi. Have you been buying? Have you been selling? Where do you realistically see things going? So yeah, one final thing I do want to share with you though, pop over to my Patreon if you're looking for some solid buy signals on stocks, options, crypto, many of which have been absolutely on point and bangers. Definitely worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. One hot one that actually just submitted their earnings was ticker DLO. It is up 26% after hours. I signaled this as a buy at $10.20 and even put out a reminder yesterday as they do have their earnings. And so, yeah, I think the writing's been on the wall, and even a lot of the day trades today were exactly on point as far as the signals, buy, sell. So definitely worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. Link in the description below and also the comments. And actually, sorry, I lied. One more thing is that technically I'm going to be going on a little bit of a trip over the next couple of days, so you might not be seeing any SoFi videos. So don't cry a river or anything like that. But yeah, so I'll try my best to do some videos, but most likely not, unless it's going to be very late, like at 11 p.m. type of thing. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. One thing I will be doing though is follow me on Twitter. I'll be periodically posting if someone requests it, like short information, other data, whatever someone's requesting, I can easily post it there. So definitely pop over there as well. So hopefully everyone has a good day and made a lot of money off of SoFi. And with all that, appreciate all of you watching.